Have you ever dreamed of exploring Croatia, where medieval walls once rivaled the Great Wall of China? Many travelers know Dubrovnik and Split, but few realize this small country also hides a national park with 16 lakes linked by 90 waterfalls, an abandoned prison island, and even a barren landscape that looks like the moon. The good news is you don't have to piece it all together alone. Today, we'll walk you through Croatia's most unreal wonders, from ancient cities to places that feel otherworldly. In the center of Istria rises Motovun, a medieval town built high on a hill above the Mirna River Valley. Stone walls circle the summit, enclosing narrow streets that spiral upward to the main square at the top. From here, towers and tiled roofs cluster tightly together, forming a compact silhouette against the sky. The climb to Motovun winds through vineyards, forests, and farmland that cover the surrounding slopes. In autumn, mists often gather in the valley below, leaving the town standing alone above a sea of white. The views stretch across rolling hills and distant ridges, a landscape shaped by terraces and scattered villages. In the karst valleys of central Croatia lies Plitvice, a landscape of water and forest shaped over millennia. "16 lakes step down through the basin, linked by cascades that tumble from one to the next. The water flows over limestone ledges, carving terraces that gleam white beneath shifting shades of blue and green. Wooden walkways trace the edges, crossing streams and pools that rise in constant mist. In some places, the water drops in thin veils over moss-covered stone. In others, it crashes in wide curtains, filling the air with spray and sound. Forests press close on every side. Beech, fir, and pine cover the slopes, their roots drinking from the same waters that shape the lakes. Through the seasons, the character changes. In spring, floods swell the cascades. In summer, the forests stand deep in green. In autumn, the slopes glow in red and gold. In winter, ice hardens the edges and snow gathers on the terraces. On a peninsula reaching into the Adriatic lies Zadar, a city built on layers of stone and history. Roman streets still define its center, running in straight lines toward gates and forums that remain visible among later houses and churches. Venetian walls enclose the old town, their bastions guarding harbors that have sheltered ships for centuries. At the heart of Zadar stand the round church of St. Donatus and the ruins of the Roman Forum beside it. Towers, arches, and stone facades frame the squares, while narrow alleys lead toward the waterfront. Along the quays, waves lap against limestone steps, polished smooth by time. Zadar also carries a modern voice. On the edge of the sea organ transforms waves into sound, while nearby the greeting to the sun gathers solar light that glows across the pavement at night. Behind these installations stretch promenades, markets, and streets that connect the old town with newer districts. South of Zadar lies Kornati National Park, an archipelago of more than 100 islands scattered across the Adriatic. From above, the sea appears as a sheet of blue, broken by strips of pale stone, their shapes long and narrow, like blades laid across the water. Most of the islands are barren, covered only with low shrubs and dry grass. Their limestone slopes fall steeply into the sea, where cliffs drop straight into deep blue channels. The land carries little soil, yet terraces and stone walls remain, traces of fields once tended in isolation. Between the islands stretch passages of calm water, sheltered bays, and hidden coves where boats anchor in silence. The light shifts constantly. At midday, the rocks shine white against the sea, while in the evening, the islands turn gold and red under the setting sun. Seen from the ridges, the archipelago appears endless, a horizon scattered with stone and water. Above the valley between Split and the hinterland rises Cres, a fortress perched on a limestone ridge. Its walls stretch along the crest, adapting to the rock beneath, a chain of towers and battlements that have guarded the pass for centuries. From the ramparts, the view opens across the plain to the Adriatic, with the islands of Brač, Hvar, and Šolta scattered along the horizon. The fortress has been a key stronghold since ancient times, controlling routes between coast and interior. Layers of stone walls, gates, and courtyards reveal its long use, from medieval kings to Ottoman sieges and Venetian rule. Narrow paths climb the ridge to the stronghold, their steps worn smooth by centuries. In the Poshman Channel near Zadar lies Galešnjak, a small island instantly recognized for its heart-shaped outline. From the air, its form is striking. Two rounded slopes joined by a narrow waist, surrounded by shallow blue waters that trace its edges in perfect symmetry. The island is uninhabited and covered mainly with low shrubs and stones. Its shores are rocky, with only a few small coves where boats can land. Paths cross the interior, faint lines worn into the dry grass and soil. Though tiny in scale, Galešnjak has become one of the Adriatic's most distinctive landmarks. a natural formation shaped not by design, but by the meeting of stone, sea, and chance. On the western coast of Istria stands Rovinj, a town built on a narrow peninsula that pushes into the Adriatic. Stone houses rise directly from the water's edge, their walls stacked tightly along twisting alleys. The streets climb uphill toward the bell tower of St. Euphemia, which crowns the ridge above the town. The shoreline curves in a jagged line of coves and jetties. Fishing boats anchor in the small harbor, their nets drying in the sun, while the sea reflects rows of pastel-colored facades. From the headlands, the horizon opens onto scattered islands that dot the coast. In the hills of central Istria stands Hum, often called the smallest town in the world. Enclosed by walls, it consists of only a handful of stone houses, a church, and a narrow street that runs through its center. The walls and gates still stand, built from rough-hewn limestone that is weathered for centuries. From the entrance, the view opens across valleys and forests that stretch to the horizon. Inside, the town feels enclosed, every step marked by cobblestones, arches, and carved doorways. Bells from the church tower carry over the rooftops, echoing across the surrounding hills. Off the western coast of Istria lie the Brijuni Islands, a scattered group of islets set in clear Adriatic waters. The largest island is covered in pine forests and meadows, its shores indented with coves and rocky beaches. Paths run beneath oaks and cedars, opening to views across the sea toward the mainland. The islands have carried many layers of history. Roman villas and mosaics remain along the coast, their walls broken but still visible among the trees. In later centuries, fortresses guarded the approaches, and in the 20th century, Brijuni became a retreat for leaders and dignitaries. Today, the islands combine traces of the past with open landscapes of forest and sea, their quiet bays and ruins surrounded by the horizon of the Adriatic. On the central Dalmatian coast lies Split, a city that grew from the walls of a Roman palace. At its heart stands Diocletian's palace, built in the 4th century as a fortified residence by the sea. Its massive walls, gates, and colonnades still shape the old town, enclosing squares, temples, and courtyards that remain alive with streets and houses today. Within the palace Stone arches frame narrow alleys where daily life moves through ancient halls. The peristyle square opens under towering columns, while the cathedral, once the emperor's mausoleum, rises above the city with its campanile. From rooftops and terraces, the palace walls appear as part of the urban fabric, their age hidden beneath layers of centuries. Beyond the palace, Split stretches along the coast. The Riva Promenade runs beside the harbor, lined with palms and cafes, facing ferries and fishing boats that connect the city to the islands. Behind the waterfront rise ridges of stone and forested hills, framing the city against the Adriatic. At the entrance to the Kvarner Gulf lies Krka, the largest island of the Adriatic. A bridge spans the narrow strait from the mainland, crossing waters where currents and winds meet before opening into sheltered bays. From above, the island stretches in ridges and valleys, its shores indented with coves and headlands. The western side is fertile and green, covered in vineyards, olive groves, and small villages. Stone walls run across the fields, marking terraces that descend toward the sea. To the east, the land turns harsher, its slopes bare and rocky, shaped by the strong Bora winds that sweep across the Gulf. Krka has been settled for millennia. Roman ruins, medieval castles, and stone churches remain scattered across the island. In the old town of Krka, narrow alleys run beneath towers and arches that look out over the harbor. Fishing boats still crowd the quays, their nets drying under the sun. At the mouth of the Cetina River lies Omiš, a town set between steep cliffs and the Adriatic Sea. The river cuts through a narrow canyon before spilling into the harbor, its green waters winding between stone ridges that rise sharply on both sides. The old town gathers at the base of these cliffs. Narrow alleys run between churches, towers, and houses built of pale limestone, while the remains of fortresses still crown the heights above. From their walls, the view opens across the delta, the town below framed by mountains and sea. At the shoreline, beaches curve along the bay, while the river mouth forms a calm inlet. In the southern Adriatic lies Mljet, an island of forests, lakes, and quiet bays. Much of its western side is protected as a national park, where pine woods descend to the water and stone paths follow the edges of sheltered inlets. From the sea, the coastline appears dark and wooded, broken by coves where the water turns clear green. At the heart of the park are two saltwater lakes, Veliko and Malo Jezero, connected to the sea by narrow channels. Their surfaces remain calm, enclosed by ridges of forest, while in the center of the larger lake lies an islet crowned by a medieval monastery. Reflections of stone and pine ripple across the water, shifting with the wind. Elsewhere on the island, ridges climb above vineyards, fields, and scattered villages. Caves open along the cliffs, including Odysseus's cave, tied to legends that connect Mljet with epic journeys across the Mediterranean. On the northern Adriatic coast, at the foot of Mount Uchka, lies Apatia, a town shaped by sea, slopes, and centuries of leisure. The shoreline curves in a wide bay, where villas and hotels line the water, their ornate facades recalling the era where Austro-Hungarian nobility made this their retreat. Palm trees, parks, and stone balustrades still frame the waterfront, a blend of nature and design. The Lungomare Promenade runs for 12 kilometers along the coast, connecting coves, piers, and gardens. Statues stand against the horizon, waves breaking at their base, while stairways descend directly into the sea. The water changes with the light. Silver at dawn, deep blue in the afternoon, glowing orange as the sun sets across the Gulf. Behind the town, the land rises steeply. Forests climb the slopes at Uchka, their ridges often hidden in mist. From the summit, the view spreads across the Kvarner Gulf, its islands scattered in every direction. At the southern tip of Croatia lies Dubrovnik, a walled city rising directly from the Adriatic. Massive stone walls encircle the old town, running along cliffs and harbors in a continuous line of towers and bastions. From the sea, the city appears as a fortress of red-tiled roofs pressed against pale limestone, framed by the slopes of Mount Surge behind. Inside the walls, narrow streets climb between high stone facades. The Stradun, a broad avenue paved with polished limestone, runs straight through the center, opening onto squares filled with fountains, churches, and palaces. Arches, cloisters, and carved details line the streets, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of use. From the ramparts, the view stretches outward. To one side lies the open Adriatic, scattered with islands. To the other, a dense pattern of rooftops enclosed by walls. Bells ring from towers, echoing across the courtyards and alleys. At the southern tip of Istria lies Pula, a city where the Adriatic meets layers of stone. The shoreline bends into sheltered bays, while limestone ridges rise behind the harbor. Within this setting stands one of the best preserved Roman amphitheaters in the world. Built in the 1st century, the arena rises in 3 tiers of arches, circling a vast space where tens of thousands once gathered. The limestone blocks still hold their shape, weathered but unbroken, their scale dominating the city center. Elsewhere in Pula, traces of Rome continue. Gates, temples, and fragments of old roads appear between later houses and squares. Around them, the harbor remains busy, with fishing boats and ferries moving across waters that have connected the city to the Adriatic for centuries. In the valley of the Sava River lies Zagreb, Croatia's capital and largest city. It stretches between the southern slopes of Medvednica mountain and the broad plains that run east and west, a meeting place of upland and lowland, Central Europe, and the Balkans. The old core gathers on 2 hills, Cavtat and Brač. On Cavtat rises the cathedral, its twin spires visible across the city, while Brač holds St. Mark's Church, with its patterned roof set among narrow streets and courtyards. Stone gates, towers, and arcades still mark the medieval heart, where alleys climb and descend between squares. Below the hills spreads the lower town, planned in the 19th century with broad avenues, parks, and monumental facades. The Green Horseshoe, a chain of gardens and squares, ties the district together, its lawns lined with museums, galleries, and theaters. Modern Zagreb extends across the Sava into new districts of wide boulevards and residential blocks, their scale contrasting with the old streets above. In the hills of central Dalmatia flows the Krka River, a limestone waterway that has carved canyons and valleys on its path to the Adriatic. Its course is protected within Krka National Park, a landscape defined by cascades, lakes, and forested ridges. The most famous is Skredinsky Buk, where water drops over 17 steps in a broad rushing curtain. Channels split around small islands of stone and vegetation, creating pools linked by wooden bridges and trails. Further upstream lies Roški Slap, a chain of smaller waterfalls and rapids that wind among ridges and caves. In the calm waters between them stands Visovac Island, crowned by a monastery hidden among cypress trees. The riverbanks are thick with ash, willow, and oak, and cliffs rise sharply above the water. Herons, eagles, and owls circle the valleys, while monasteries and fortresses look down from ridges. Through the seasons, the cascades shift in force and color, from spring floods to frozen winter streams. In the central Adriatic lies Brač, an island of high ridges, quarries, and long beaches. Its coastline stretches for kilometers in coves and headlands, while inland the land rises sharply to Vidova Gora, the highest peak of the Adriatic islands. From its summit, the horizon opens across the sea toward Hvar, Vis, and the mountains of the mainland. Brač is known for its white limestone, quarried since Roman times and used in palaces, cathedrals, and cities far beyond the Adriatic. The quarries cut deep into the hillsides, their bright stone contrasting with the pine forests and fields that surround them. Villages of stone houses stand inland on terraces, their walls built from the same material that has shaped the island's identity. On the southern shore lies Zlatni Rat, a narrow split of pale pebbles that shifts shape with winds and currents. It stretches into clear blue water, one of the most striking beaches of the Adriatic. North of Zadar lies Nin, a town set on a small island within a shallow lagoon. Stone bridges connect it to the mainland, crossing waters that shift in color with the tide. The old town is compact, its streets lined with stone houses and squares that open onto churches dating back to Croatia's earliest kingdoms. Among them stands the Church of the Holy Cross, often called the smallest cathedral in the world. Its simple walls and rounded form rise from a grassy square, a reminder of the town's medieval past. Around Nin stretch salt pans that have been worked for centuries, their pools glinting in the sun. Enclosed by water and history, Nin remains both a quiet settlement and a place where Croatia's roots are visible in stone. West of Zadar stretches Dugi Otok, the Long Island, a narrow strip of land running almost 50 kilometers through the Adriatic. Its coasts are sharply divided. The western side falls in cliffs straight into the sea, while the eastern slopes descend more gently into bays and harbors. From offshore, the island appears as a ridge of limestone rising out of the water, its length broken only by inlets and coves. The most dramatic point is Telashchicha Bay, a long inlet enclosed by cliffs that drop more than 100 meters into the sea. Inside, the waters remain calm, protected from winds, while the cliffs face open horizons of blue. Nearby lies Lake Mir, a saltwater lake set within the island, its surface shifting in color with the sun. In the hills of northern Croatia stands Trakošćan, a castle perched above a lake and surrounded by forest. Its white walls rise from a wooded ridge, crowned with towers and battlements that overlook the valleys below. Reflections of the castle stretch across the water, broken only by ripples of wind and passing swans. Trakoschan was first built in the 13th century as a fortress, later transformed into a noble residence. Over the centuries, it gained arcades, courtyards, and terraces, its defensive towers softened by Renaissance and Baroque additions. Paths climb through the surrounding park, winding between oaks and chestnuts that frame the castle and green. South of Cres lies Lošinj, an island of sheltered bays and green slopes surrounded by clear Adriatic waters. Pines cover much of the coastline, their branches reaching almost to the sea, while paths follow the edges through coves and rocky beaches. The land is gentler than its northern neighbor, with hills that rise softly above the harbors. Lošinj has long been known for its climate. Sea air mixes with the scent of pine and herbs, carried inland by steady winds. In the 19th century, it became a retreat for those seeking rest, its mild winters and warm summers shaping a reputation that remains today. The town of Lošinj spreads around a deep natural harbor, its quays crowded with boats. West of Split lies Trogir, a small town set on an island between the mainland and Chiovo. Stone bridges connected on either side, leading into a dense maze of medieval streets. Within its walls, alleys run between Romanesque churches, Venetian palaces, and houses built of pale limestone. At the center stands the Cathedral of St. Lawrence, its carved portal and tall bell tower dominating the town. Around it, squares and loggias open into narrow lanes that twist back toward the waterfront. Along the quays, boats crowd against stone walls, their masts rising above the roofs. From above, Trogir appears as a compact silhouette of towers and red-tiled roofs, pressed tightly into its island. Sea and bridges define its edges, a town bound by water on every side. South of Hvar lies Korčula, an island of ridges, forests, and sheltered bays. Pines and oaks cover much of the land, their slopes running down to coves, where the sea shifts from deep blue to turquoise. Villages stand along the coasts and valleys, their stone houses surrounded by vineyards and olive groves that mark centuries of cultivation. At the heart of the island lies the town of Korčula, enclosed by medieval walls on a narrow peninsula. Towers rise above gates and harbors, while inside, Streets run in a herringbone pattern designed to catch the breeze and shield from the wind. Stone facades, loggias, and churches crowd into the compact core, their details recalling Venetian rule and local craftsmanship. From the ramparts, the view stretches across the channel toward the mountains of Payelshats. North of Zadar lies Pog, an island unlike any other on the Adriatic. Its eastern coast is stripped bare by the Bora wind, leaving slopes of pale limestone that shine under the sun. From the sea, the land looks almost lunar, ridges of white rock descending straight into the water, with little vegetation breaking the surface. Yet beyond the barren stretches lie valleys of salt pans, fields, and terraces where olives and vines still grow. The town of Pog spreads along the sheltered bay, its streets built in a grid around squares, churches, and stone houses. Lace making, practiced here for centuries, remains one of the island's defining crafts, its intricate patterns passed down through generations. The island is also known for its sheep pastures. Dry stone walls cross the hills, enclosing flocks that graze among rocks and sparse grass. In the far northeast of Croatia lies Baranja, a land framed by the Drava and Danube rivers. Between their waters stretch wide plains, marshes, and forests, a landscape shaped as much by floods and currents as by human hands. Fields of grain and sunflowers run in long rows across the flatlands, while vineyards climb the low slopes that rise gently from the valley floor. At the heart of the region stands Kopachki Rit, one of the largest wetlands in Europe. Here, backwaters, channels, and lakes spread into a maze of reeds and willow forests. White-tailed eagles nest in the trees, herons stalk the shallows, and deer move through the clearings. Seasonal floods continually reshape the wetlands, leaving behind shifting patterns of water and land. Villages in Baranja are built in long rows along straight roads, their houses painted in bright colors, with yards that open toward gardens and orchards. Traditions of winemaking and farming remain strong, tied to the fertile soil and the Danube's broad floodplain. Stretching far more than 140 kilometers along Croatia's coast, Velebit is the country's largest mountain range. The ridges rise steeply from the Adriatic, a wall of stone that separates sea from inland plains. From the shoreline, the mountains appear abrupt and endless, their slopes climbing in broken cliffs and jagged peaks. The range is carved from limestone, its surface marked by sinkholes, caves, and sharp ridges. Valleys twist between the peaks, where streams vanish into underground channels and reappear far below. Forests of beech and fir cover the lower slopes, giving way to bare rock and scattered pines higher up. Velebit holds two national parks, Northern Velebit and Plitvice, where trails climb through gorges and over ridgelines with sweeping views of the Adriatic. In winter, the peaks are buried in snow, while in summer, the air carries scents of pine and stone, warmed by the sun. From the sea, Velebit forms a constant backdrop. Islands lie scattered just offshore, their shores framed by the shadow of the mountains. At the mouth of the Krka River stands Šibenik, a city built of stone and pressed between hills and sea. Narrow alleys climb from the harbor into terraces of houses and courtyards, their walls of pale limestone catching the light. From the water, the skyline rises in layers of towers and rooftops, crowned by the dome of St. James Cathedral. The cathedral, built entirely from stone blocks, is a masterpiece of 15th century craftsmanship. Its dome and sculpted details dominate the old town, standing among squares, palaces, and churches that mark centuries of Venetian influence. Around it, steep streets run upward, opening onto views of the sea. Fortresses rise above the city on surrounding hills. Their walls and bastions overlook the channel leading inland, guarding the route to the Krka River. From the heights, the horizon stretches across islands scattered offshore, while inland, the river valley winds into the hills. On the Plitvice Peninsula lies Ston, a town set between hills and salt pans at the edge of the sea. Its streets run in a grid of stone houses, opening onto squares where churches and fountains remain from medieval times. Around the town stretch shallow pools, the oldest saltworks on the Adriatic, their walls and channels glinting under the sun. Above Ston rises walls that climb steeply into the hills. Built in the 14th century, they extend far more than 5 kilometers, linking Ston with its smaller twin settlement, Ston. Towers and battlements crown the ridges, overlooking valleys, bays, and the strait beyond. In the Hvar Gulf lies Rob, an island shaped by sharp contrasts of land and sea. Its eastern coast rises in barren ridges, bare limestone swept by the Bora winds, while the western side is green and sheltered, covered in forests of oak and pine. Between them, valleys open into fields and orchards that have sustained villages for centuries. The town of Rob stands on a narrow peninsula, its skyline marked by 4 stone bell towers that rise above red-tilled roofs. Narrow streets climb toward the towers, opening onto small squares where churches and palaces reflect centuries of Venetian influence. From the harbor, the town appears as a compact silhouette, its towers lined in a row against the sky. Along the coast, bays cut deep into the island, their waters calm and clear. Beaches of sand and pebble stretch beneath wooden slopes, while headlands push outward into the Adriatic. In the northern Adriatic lies Goli Otok, an island of bare stone rising from the sea. Unlike the wooded slopes of nearby Rob and Kirk, its surface is almost treeless, the limestone exposed to sun and wind. The coast is jagged, broken into coves where the water glows blue against pale rock. For much of the 20th century, the island held a prison complex, its walls and barracks built from the same stone that covers the landscape. The ruins remain scattered across the slopes, abandoned structures standing silent in the heat. Paths run among collapsed walls and empty courtyards, their outlines fading into the rock around them. The island's barrenness gives it a stark presence, a place of exposure and silence where stone, sea, and memory are bound together. South of Šibenik lies Promotion, a town built on a rocky peninsula that was once an island. A narrow causeway connects it to the mainland, leading into a cluster of stone houses and alleys that rise toward the church at the summit. From above, the town appears as a tight circle of red-tiled roofs, surrounded by the Adriatic on all sides. The coastline around Promotion is jagged, broken into coves and headlands, where the water shifts from deep blue to turquoise. Inland, vineyards spread across stony fields, their plots enclosed by low stone walls that form intricate patterns on the hillsides. North of Zagreb rises Medvednica, a mountain whose slopes form a green backdrop to the capital. Its ridges climb above 1,000 meters, covered with forests of beech, oak, and fir that stretch across valleys and ravines. In every season, the mountain shifts character. Spring brings carpets of wildflowers, summer deep shade, autumn a blaze of color, and winter snow that transforms the slopes into a ski resort. Paths and trails run throughout the range, some leading to caves and springs hidden in the limestone. Veternica Cave extends for kilometers underground, its chambers holding traces of prehistoric life. Higher on the slopes stands Medvedgrad, a 13th century fortress built on a ridge to guard the approaches to Zagreb. Its towers and walls still overlook the plain, a reminder of centuries when the mountain was both shield and frontier. On the banks of the Drava River stands Osijek, the largest city of Slavonia. Its streets spread across flatlands once shaped by marshes and floodplains, a meeting place of river, fields, and trade routes. The Drava flows broad and steady through the city, crossed by bridges that tie together districts old and new. At the heart of Osijek lies Tvardia, a Baroque fortress built in the 18th century. Its gates, bastions, and barracks enclose a grid of squares, palaces, and churches that still hold the rhythm of a garrison town. Cobbled streets run through the fortress, opening onto courtyards where facades are marked by coats of arms and Baroque details. Around the fortress, Osijek grew outward in rings of 19th century avenues and modern boulevards. Parks, promenades, and wide squares frame the city, while along the river stretch long walkways shaded by willows and poplars. The water carries reflections of bridges, towers, and passing boats, a constant presence in everyday life. On a ridge above the Mirna Valley lies Grožnjan, a hill town of stone streets and medieval walls. The approach climbs through vineyards and olive groves before reaching gates that open into a maze of narrow alleys. Houses of pale stone stand close together, their shutters painted in bright colors that stand out against the walls. The town is quiet, but filled with studios and galleries. Music and art spill into the courtyards, echoing along cobbled lanes that twist toward small squares. From the edges, the view reaches over valleys and hillsides patterned with terraces and scattered villages. South of Dubrovnik lies Cavtat, a town set on a narrow peninsula that curves into the Adriatic. The coastline forms sheltered bays on either side, where harbors fill with fishing boats, ferries, and yachts. Promenades lined with palms follow the water, passing stone quays and gardens that open toward the sea. The old town gathers on the slopes above the harbor. Narrow alleys climb between stone houses and churches, their facades facing outward toward the bay. At the tip of the peninsula, pines cover the ridges, their shade falling across paths that circle the shoreline. From the hills behind Cavtat, the view stretches across the open Adriatic to the islands offshore, while northward, the walls of Dubrovnik rise in the distance. Far out in the southern Adriatic lies Lastovo, an island known for its isolation and dense forests. Pines cover much of the land, their slopes running down to coves where the sea turns clear and deep. The coastline is jagged and indented, scattered with bays that remain quiet, even in summer. Around the main island lie dozens of smaller islets, forming an archipelago protected as a nature park. The village of Lastovo stands inland on a slope, its stone houses clustered beneath the church tower. Chimneys rise in unusual shapes above the roofs, each one distinct, a feature unique to the island. From the ridges above the settlement, the view opens across the archipelago, a horizon scattered with green hills and open sea. Lastovo's remoteness has long defined it. Reached only by ferry, it feels far from the mainland, a place shaped by the sea and the forest around it. On a hill above the eastern coast of Istria rise Velebit, a town of steep streets and stone facades overlooking the Adriatic. The old town is enclosed by walls, its gates leading into a tangle of alleys lined with houses built from pale limestone. Towers, arches, and loggias appear around corners, reminders of centuries of Venetian rule. From the ridge, the view stretches toward the sea and the modern town below, built closer to the coast. Mines once operated there, cutting deep into the hills, their shafts and tunnels shaping much of Leben's more recent past. In the central Adriatic lies Hvar, an island stretched in a long ridge of stone and fields facing the open sea. Its coastline alternates between rocky headlands and sheltered bays, where villages cluster around harbors filled with fishing boats and yachts. Olive groves, vineyards, and terraces climb the slopes, their walls built from pale limestone. The town of Hvar gathers around a deep harbor, watched over by a Venetian fortress that crowns the ridge above. Narrow streets run uphill from the quays, lined with palaces, loggias, and stone houses that open onto squares filled with arcades and towers. At night, the waterfront glows with lights that reflect across the bay. Inland, the island is quieter. Lavender fields spread across the hills in summer, their scent carried by the wind, while ridges open onto views of neighboring islands scattered across the horizon. Trails cross plateaus and valleys, reaching abandoned hamlets and churches hidden in the fields. Croatia is stunning, diverse, and steeped in history. A land where medieval walls guard the Adriatic coast, ancient Roman ruins rest beside lively cafes, and timeless traditions flow through every village and island. If this glimpse sparked your curiosity, hit subscribe. There are many more countries to explore right here on the channel.